appreciate it. Ooh, welcome to the wrap of season 12. Woo, woo.
Right?
Yes,
It is
yes. How are you?
incredible. We are at episode 110. We are wrapping season 12. It
Yes.
is just, I don't know.
I keep laughing to myself. I'm thinking about one day we were working again, right? We were working and talking, planning, putting things together. And my partner said, "When are you guys going to start the podcast?" And here we are, like you said, 110 episodes later, a book later, 4-day conference later, and on to even more exciting things.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
I said it earlier and I'll say it again. But, we started the podcast a week later than we expected to because
Yeah, we
there
did.
was a little thing such as a national insurrection going on.
Right?
And here we are, 2 years later, and
Yeah.
some accountability is happening. And yeah, it's been a
Yes,
wild ride, my friend.
Yes, it has been. Yes, it has been. And I was thinking, a lot of times people say, "Oh, drink water, exercise." I said, "Are the people going to hear us? Are they going to hear the messages about wellness and actually put it into action like we talk about at the end of every week? Are we going to have wisdom in action or more foolishness?" But I think that even though we continue to, like we talk about, hold grief and gratitude, or you said don't hold it, right? But we deal with both grief and gratitude. Um, Being able to be intentional about our wellness, to see the people around the world who've been affected and benefited by talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness has been really exciting.
Well, I think one of the things that I've really learned, and do we want to go into this now or do we want to do our official
I
intro?
think, yeah, let's do our official intro so those that are not live don't get cut out of the conversation. Even though we have
Right?
juicy stuff, you should always be here for the beginning.
Right? All right,
Yes.
let's do the official and then we'll get into it.
Let's do it. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling author. I'm the founder of Shalo Glow, an all natural handmade personal products company that helps people with dry skin glow from head to toe. I'm your champion for self care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon best-selling author with Shannon and
Yes.
17 other amazing people, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Yes. Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do
Oof.
this?
Yes. And again, guys, this is the wrap of season 12. So we are not just talking about one dimension or two. We are talking about all eight, all of our guests, all of the resources, and the different things that we've talked about this season.
And what we started out with our intro on live, because
Yeah.
often what you don't know if you're listening to this on all these awesome podcast platforms. Thank you. We love
Yes.
it wherever you are, listeners, and wherever you're coming in from. But live, we often have a little bit of conversation before that gets cut out. So if you want
Mhm.
to know the behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah.
join us live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We go live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can follow us and set your notices and things like that. But what
Yes.
we were talking about before the show was about what we've learned in the last 2 years. And
Mm.
Shannon, what were you saying about the water and the wellness and
Ooh, so I think you're talking about before we did the intro. I don't even know if I have the thought anymore.
right? Well, you're basically saying, will people listen,
Will
right?
people, and not, yes, and not only listen, but will it be my question was, will it be received as, "Oh, this is absolutely what I needed," or, "Yes, cliche, I've heard it,
Mhm.
and we're not gonna put it into action, and it's just really nice things that sound
Right.
nice?" But we've seen that's not how it is. It's been heavy.
Right?
Yeah,
Well, one of the things that I've realized is in this last 2 years, 110 episodes, the
right?
community, the book, the
Mm,
conference, like, whoa, all the things, right?
yes.
Is the power of community.
Mhm.
Because here's the thing, most of the things we talk about, most of the things that our guests talk about,
Yeah.
we've heard. We've
Mhm.
heard, or we've heard some piece of it. Like, they say there's nothing new. It's just
Mhm.
how it's repackaged or how it's. We get incredible resources from our guests. But what I know to be true in my life and us doing this journey the last 2 years is the power of community and gentle, loving accountability
Mhm.
and that piece that we can't do on our own.
Right.
That it really takes, hey, you know, I hear you got a cold this week. What are you doing working that many hours, right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, this is going on in your family life. How can I best support you?
Yeah.
Or hey, I read this great book and it really applied. Or like, we were interviewing a guest before the show that
Yeah.
I about lost my mind because she so applies to what I'm
Yes.
currently going through in my life with my dad and elder
Yeah.
care and family. And not
Mhm.
only am I thrilled to know her, but I am thrilled for our listeners to know her.
Yes.
Because what if I'd have known her 6 months ago? You
Mhm.
know, like that is the power I realize is that the power of community and knowing enough people that we can go, oh, yeah, we got a resource for that.
Right.
I know
And
somebody you got to talk to.
yep, and that's how confident I wanna be, it's not always about, "Do I know? Do I have to be the person that's irreplaceable?" If I don't know it, okay, right? Let's notice, let's not judge it. What's my next step? And a lot of times what I hear you saying is sometimes you don't have the next step. That's what we were talking about in the conversation, right? What if you don't know the person or you don't know what you need to do? Then here's a whole 'nother situation. So, being able to have that person there makes me feel better, knowing that they have 25 years of experience, even though I'm 29. That makes me feel better, and that I can lean on that. And okay, now we're going to get to the solution faster instead of me having to wait 25 years to find out that I could have did it better.
Right? Or the flip side, right? One
Yeah.
of the things I love about our relationship is
Mm.
I always laugh and I joke and I tell people I've taken more headshots than I have in my entire life since I have met you. But, one of the things I had somebody tell me years ago in business is if
Yeah.
you don't have, and I know now the terms are all different, but I think
Right.
you're still considered a millennial. Like if
Yes.
you don't have a millennial or a young person mentoring you,
Hmm.
you are missing out. Like,
Mm.
we're always taught to mentor and to be the one that is and that's outdated,
Yeah.
right? So to
Yes.
have, like, you teach me so much, like,
Thank you.
and I am just grateful, like, and I think that's the whole thing about our community, right? Like, we have
Yes.
people from their teens all the way up into their 80s. And I
Yes.
think we might even have a couple people getting in their 90s and hundreds from some
Yeah.
people we have about to come on the show. But,
Right.
you know, that depth and breadth of
Hmm.
wisdom and different experiences and different life experiences and the whole piece of, well, this is what worked for me and it might
Right.
work for you or it might not, right? Because some
Yeah.
of our guests we had on last season were just incredible. Like, I'm
Right.
so excited to recap and talk about them again because I always, when I get to the end of the show, I'm like, wait, we talked to them this season?
Right? Because so much, because the season is like 8 weeks. It's like 9 weeks, so that's 2 months ago, 2 months. After COVID time, that's 6.5 months right
It's
there.
a year. It's a year. I promise you. Like, this whole
That went
time
by in 2
space
weeks.
continuum is
Yeah, no, it's
weird,
crazy.
right?
It's crazy. So,
So,
absolutely, and for the headshot, yes, I will definitely claim that, and I will blame myself too because I know that not only is our outfits, and you know how I am about the seasonality of the outfits. We're not going to be in turtlenecks in the summertime. We can't post that on social media, right? But then my hair has changed too, and I'm like, if the hair is not updated, it's not updated. We got to do it again. So, I hear you on the continued student, and everybody's a teacher.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
We,
what
oh, go ahead.
that's one of the things that I loved about our conversation this season with Sammy and Fifi was the dynamic duo, right? And the mother-daughter dialogue and her saying that it was actually my millennial daughter that helped teach me about boundaries because I didn't have them. I didn't have that conversation growing up. And that was really interesting to see that dynamic and to hear how she's benefited from applying that in her life.
Right? That was fun. We don't often have two guests on the show at one time, and
Right.
that was super fun to talk to them and get
Yeah.
to know them. And I've been following their social media, and they're just a hoot.
Yeah,
Like
they are.
I love that dynamic, and I love the resources they give as they learn together. You
Yes.
know, and their
Yes.
YouTube show. That was super fun. And they
Yeah.
were just on a couple of weeks ago because they were on for social wellness
Mhm.
and episode 108. That was a really fun episode.
Yeah, I had watched one of their YouTube videos beforehand, and Tammy was going through her purse and all the things she keeps, and I keep thinking about this little Lysol spray that she had. So I met the CPA this Monday, right, for Shaylo Glow at Starbucks, and I said, "Dang, I need the little Lysol spray to wipe the table and stuff off." So I love just we talk about really big resources, and then even down to the Lysol spray that would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thought, but I'm going to let it go.
Okay.
I'm going to self edit really quickly.
I hear you. And that's one of the keys to winning, and we talked about that too in occupational wellness, right? How do you sort and separate, "Okay, I need to do this now," and then maybe I need to wait. Maybe now is not the time for that, and prioritizing helps you stay sane.
Right? And that was Takia Jackson, right? Who
Yes.
was doing the keys to winning. Yeah, that was a fun conversation. Um, that prioritization
Mm.
of our self wellness and our self care in the midst of striving for goals, right? I had a really fun conversation this week with a friend who has been a guest on the show before, Monisha
Oh,
Matal, and
yes.
we were talking about goals. And we were talking about because she was saying she had this like perfect moment this week
Mm.
where, it's spring where she's at. She's up near Washington, D.C. in Virginia. And she said she had cut like a hyacinth bulb, like a hyacinth flower, and I think it was a nars. I'm gonna blank on it, but really pretty flower. I
Yeah.
saw it on Instagram. If you
Yeah.
follow Women Connected and follow her, but she said she brought it in, and she just had this moment of realization that she was kind of living her dream, and that she didn't even know to put having fresh flowers on her desk as a
Mm.
goal. And she was
Mm.
having the conversation, are goals worth it? Do we let go of our goals? Is it intention? It was kind of a really big existential question and
Yes.
conversation we were having. But it was really because I asked the question, did your past self have the intention
Mhm.
of this beauty? But they
Mm.
didn't know it, right? Yeah, it was an interesting conversation.
So what do you think now? To goal or not to goal? What is the answer? How do you feel about it?
Well, I, as somebody who identifies as somebody who's neurodiverse and
Mhm.
on the spectrum with ADD and ADHD, I like goals. I like smart goals. And I
Yes.
think because and I think how I ended my conversation with Monisha was I like to have structure with
Mhm.
a lot of wiggle room to play in the structure.
Yeah,
Because we as certified interplay leaders, we talk about you build the framework and you let people to have the freedom to play within that framework. And to
absolutely.
me, I kind of think about goals like that. It's the framework, and there's a lot of freedom to how we're going to get to the goal or what it's going to look like. And the goal might
Right.
change. But
Yes.
personally, for me, I like to have a goal. Now, it could be that it's a vision board and I have a beautiful picture of something or
Mhm.
a feeling or things like that. But I think one of the reasons I said it was about being neurodiverse is because often I forget, like if I don't write it down or if I don't have a picture of it, or I can lose focus of what am
Yeah.
I going towards, right? What is
And
my
that's
intention here?
yeah, and that's my I think my count towards the yes for goals, because if not, all these other calls and texts and situations and needs will come in before yours because we
Hmm.
forget what we want for ourselves, if we do not keep it in the front of our mind. So that's why I say yes to goals.
Well, and we also, we talked about it in the Women Connecting Wisdom book. I talked
Hmm.
about it in my first book with
Yes.
Sheila Still Point, about, you know, caregivers and about
Mhm.
how often we put other people's needs or wants ahead of our own.
Yes.
And I think whether you hold them loosely, right?
Mhm.
But if we don't think about ourselves, if
Yeah.
we don't have some intention around self-care and wellness, it's so easy to get put to the bottom of the list,
Mhm.
if we don't have that hashtag wisdom in action
Mhm.
where we're like, okay, what am, and even if it's one thing, even
Yes.
if it's I'm taking a 15-minute bath, hot bath
Mhm.
by myself
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
shutting the bathroom door and nobody can call my name,
Mhm.
right? Or, whatever that one thing is, that brings you joy, you
Yeah.
know. Sometimes when I'm in the midst of caregiving, whether it's young kids or elder, you get into those situations sometimes in crisis situations where you literally don't have a minute or 2 minutes. Like
Mhm.
really, the time you have is when you go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
Well, I've always made it a practice when I'm in those situations that I do something fun while I'm in the bathroom,
Mhm.
whether that's listening to a song I love that brings me joy, whether that's taking a really long, luxurious time to brush my teeth and
Mhm.
pamper my skin, or whether that's playing a video game on my phone for a minute or two. If I have a minute to 2 minutes, I can do that and remember to take that deep breath and take care of myself in that moment.
Absolutely. For me, what I've realized this season is that I need to get smarter on my goals, right? Like get more specific, get more measurable, get more I'll say time bound because usually attainable and relevant, I'm good, right? But what I've realized is that even our wisdom in action one week, I said, "Ooh, that wasn't an action step. I got to make
Such
sure
a
that."
shaper.
Yep, gotta shake, gotta shake. But I also love like what you said about the fluidity in between, because what we know is that when we plan things, it doesn't go exactly to plan, right? And we shouldn't get upset about that. We don't need to, why stress yourself out by getting upset that it didn't happen exactly how you thought it was when it never happens that way. So I love the freedom to change how it happens sometimes. And we do that through SWOT analysis, right? Okay, this is our goal. We have the opportunity to grow here. Let's do it this way instead so we can meet our deadline. And that time bound for me, even if we do keep our goal loosely, for me, that helps me remember. Because again,
Yeah.
last year I had the self-care Sunday written out on on the first Sunday, and because it was not written in, it didn't happen. And so I
Right.
included self-care. It happened, but it may have been a little less often than it could have been.
But if it wasn't on the calendar, I mean,
Mhm.
here's the thing we know whether if you live by calendar, like which a
Mhm.
lot of women that are in our community and in our life do because
Yeah.
they are working, they're doing a side hustle, they're running
Yeah.
their business, they're
Mhm.
entrepreneurs or
Mhm.
solopreneurs, they're taking care of kids, friends, community, family, parents, like you name it,
Yes.
women connected in wisdom, they're taking care of people.
Connected to a lot.
And right, and the world, right,
Yes,
and solving
yes.
all the world at the same time. But
Mhm.
if you don't schedule it, I
Mhm.
know in my own life it doesn't happen.
And but that's what I'm saying too. I could have done better because it was on the month. We're gonna be specific, right? It was on the
Hmm.
month. Okay, in April that you're gonna do this, but then on the monthly or the weekly, it wasn't there, or the daily, it wasn't written out, and
I
so we
see.
needed to get a little smart, a little more niche down.
You know, eh, it's kind of a tangent, but it's really not. Because Dr. Cynthia Phelps, who's in her allies, and I don't think she
Yes.
was on this season. She's been on different seasons.
Mm-mm.
But she and I collaborated one time on a self care calendar where it was, and in fact, we ought to create one for Women Connected in Wisdom now that I'm thinking
Yes.
about it. But
Yes.
here's something everybody can do, like today, if you wanted to. You can
Yeah.
go get like a blank template from the internet where you just download a blank calendar and you put in this month and you literally you write on the side a little key about what are the things that bring you self care. Whether that's, breathing, whether that's going for
Facials,
a walk,
bubble
whether that's a
bath.
facial, right, the things that bring you self care, including things like your dentist appointment, your doctor
Mm.
appointment,
Mm.
the those tangible things, but also things that bring you joy and things that address the different 8 dimensions of wellness, right?
Mhm.
And then be like a little kid. Give yourself stars, give yourself
Mm.
stickers, celebrate you taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Um, and do something that makes it tangible.
I love that. And I intentionally, when I schedule it, I do it around different things, right? I was at the masseuse, and this is before we published the book in September. And I said, okay, when am I coming back for my next appointment? One, I knew that I wanted another appointment because of the workload that we had with the book, right? But also because when I initially filled out like the intake information, one of his questions was, how often do you get a massage? And my answer was less than once a year. So I said, oh no, we got to change that. And so it was the timing of it, the intentionality of scheduling it, and doing that with the workflow helps me look forward to it.
I love that idea. You
Yeah.
know, well, you probably don't know this because this was
Right.
before we knew each other. But for years, my best friend was a licensed massage therapist. And
Mm.
so, like, that was a part of my self care because she would see me looking a certain way or my body, and she'd be like, get on my table, right?
Hmm.
And I so didn't realize like how important that was until she retired. And then I had to go looking if it's kind of like a therapist, right? A
Yes.
massage therapist, a mental health therapist. Like when you've had like the best, it's so hard to. You're
Difficult.
just like,
And you're happy, but no, right?
right,
Yes.
right. I still struggle with that sometimes, I have to
Mm.
say. So,
And
talking about this season, we
yes,
started out season 12 with environmental wellness with Cecile Armstrong and everyday activism habits.
so important. And when I think about Cecile, I constantly think about her helping me understand the difference between equity and equality, right? And meeting somebody where they are. And that's what I was thinking about earlier when you were talking about different people teaching you different things and how we're always a student and we're always a teacher. When I think about that conversation, it brings me to us looking at um, the capacity, right? The capacity that you're at or your friend is at, the other person with you in the situation, and then the context of what that means, right? Whether it's maybe your person, their schedule got filled up, right? So let's say hypothetically, if your friend puts you in for free, that's amazing. But if she needs to fill up the schedule, then okay, and how do we handle that situation? Or if she retires, now that's something completely different. And of course, the capacity is different. We need to look at the context of the situation and see how we can still get this need met. Yeah.
Yeah, I always paid her for her work because, I believe in paying my friends for their
And we
work.
do. We're amazing like
Um,
that.
but I also didn't realize how much accessibility because, she'd see
Mhm.
me hurting and she'd be like, oh, you need a massage. And I think sometimes we tend to tamp. I know I'll speak for myself. I know
Mhm.
sometimes like I tamp down. Oh, I need that because I'm taking care of other people or I'm busy doing things, and I'm not even paying attention to like, oh, I'm out of balance or I'm out of whack or until I go down with like a cold or something like that. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
and I will have to say, interplay since being involved in interplay for the past 5 years, I've gotten so much better at that because I have
Good.
tapped into that wisdom of my body and I pay attention and I notice and I know what's going on. And it's very rare. I mean, y'all can probably hear it today. I'm getting over a cold, but that was a parting gift from my 3-year-old
Mhm.
nibblings. It wasn't because I was run down. I mean, we were partying pretty hard, but it was more just I was wrong place, wrong time. But yeah, I think that intentionality of self-care and checking in with ourselves and our body
Yes.
wisdom. And I think about Cecile's system and
Mm.
everyday activism, and you were talking about capacity. And
Yes.
her number one pillar is self-care because healing is a form of protest.
Mhm.
Is that we have to take care of ourselves and others in order to take care of other people and in order to change the world. You know,
Yes.
I was talking to Dr. Cynthia Phelps. I mentioned her earlier in this episode, but we were talking today, and she was talking about this passion she has to work with people who are changing the world.
Yes.
And and I was like, heck yes. Like most of the women we talk to on this show, that's part of what they're doing. They're changing the
Absolutely.
world.
Yes. And it's so interesting that we can do that, right? And these are the women that you would think would be most confident in their voice and most confident in their self-image. And just like other regular people, we all have the same questions of, am I doing this right? What do I need right now in this moment? Am I getting what I need? Am I giving myself that? How do I do that in the context? And if we're asking ourselves those questions, everybody's still on that same spectrum, So to talk about self-compassion And hey, as you talk to this person and take care of them professionally and with hospitality, like we do and are intentional to do, if we're intentional about changing the world, make sure that you're just as intentional with the way that you're talking to yourself. I really love what
Right?
she does.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
with innerally.com.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talking about changing the world,
Mm.
this season was when we talked to Bridget Simpson at Bard
Hard
Business
business.
and
It was,
protecting fundamental rights. That was a powerful episode.
yes.
They were working on legislative change in the Georgia legislature for fundamental rights for people who are impacted by the carceral system, the
Yes.
justice system. And I know they made some big changes. I don't think they got everything they wanted this legislative season, but I think
Mhm.
they definitely got some of the things that they were looking for.
Yes. And I just appreciated, the courage and her using her time and the team that they have using their time in order to do that, to hold space for more people. 44,000 collateral consequences is a lot of stuff to deal with after you've already said I'm sorry and done the time for whatever is the situation that you're talking about. So I'm looking forward to it being a better situation for people who are interested in doing better. And like we said, with being intentional about the wellness, I would love to see us in a better position. So I was super happy to have the opportunity for her to come on, especially since she's working with Sharticia. And so to learn that Sharticia, one of our Amazon best-selling authors, is also writing legislation in the state of Georgia at the same time was huge. And I was really excited to see, the amazing things that our wise women are connected with, because we don't just call them wise for no reason.
I wanted to give an update
Yes.
because they formally incarcerated people are now a protected class in the city of Atlanta. So they
Yes.
did get their legislation passed that they wanted to, which is awesome.
Super
And
exciting.
y'all can follow Bard Business on Instagram and other places and check out the work that they're doing because it's really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved also, so talking about Bard business, right, which can be a heavy topic to talk about. It comes with a lot of layers, a lot of history, a lot of details, right? To
Mhm.
also talk about joy and laughter with the laughter yoga has been amazing. And I love thinking about the different laughs that we have. How have you been laughing since we had that show?
Even as you said that, I started to
Yeah.
laugh, and I was like, "Oh, I can't make myself laugh because I'm getting over this cold, and then I'm going to cough." But even
Uh,
thinking about laughing makes me want to laugh,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was and Amy Angelili. Did
Yeah.
I do that right?
I
Amy
can't remember.
Angelili.
Sorry, Amy.
And she was springing to happiness talking about
Yes.
emotional and mental wellness, and what
Hmm.
a joy,
It
like
was great.
what a delight. And yeah, I was reminded of some of the laughter yoga I've done before.
Right.
She gave us an example on that episode, and then I took it and talked about it in one of my interplay classes, because just
Mm,
reminding ourselves to, it's kind of that fake it till you make it,
yes.
which it can be a double-edged sword, right? You want to be
Mhm.
careful about that. But
Yes.
I do know, I'm not even going to say I think, I
Mhm.
know that often when we when we do things like laugh, our body then laughs. It gets
Yeah.
into it, right? It's
Yes.
not to do it to cover up our emotions, but
Mm-mm.
sometimes that we just got to get started, that momentum, right? It's kind of like when you
Absolutely.
start to do workouts and the hardest step is starting. And then once
Yes.
you get started, you feel better and
Yes.
you can go longer. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, laughing is genuinely one of those things that changed my life, right? So being intentional about laughing is one of the things I think about when I talk about being intentional with maintaining any wellness in any dimension of wellness that we talk about, right?
Well, in your story that you've said on air a couple of times, but how old were you when you set yourself that goal? Speaking of
Oh, it was
goals,
middle school, right? Needed to. Middle
so
school.
what age were you?
Probably 12.
Wow.
Yeah, and so much I feel like at 12, that was, like, the second time that I reinvented myself.
When you talk about 12, you know what comes up
Yes.
for me? What comes
What?
up for me is a picture that I have on my bookshelf. Hang on just a
Yeah.
second. I'm going to snag it. And it's
Okay.
something that Oprah says about
Okay.
12-year-olds. Hold
Yeah,
on.
let's
Hold that
let's talk
thought just a
about it.
second. Oprah said years ago, and I can't remember what book it was or what she was doing, but she said, take a picture of yourself from when you were, I think she said 12, but nowadays it may be 10 or something like that, before the world kind of gotcha, and have a picture of yourself at that age where you can see it, right? And so I have a picture I'm showing you, Shannon. I don't know if you can see it, and our listeners that are watching live.
I
But
can
this
see
is
it.
a picture of this is me.
You're
This
okay.
is my cousin Lori,
Okay.
and this is my sister Katie.
Mhm.
And in this picture, and it's printed out as black and white. There were color pictures back then, just to be fair, because when I was 12, it was 1982.
Got
Excuse
you.
me. But we were laughing. Like, it is the reason I picked this picture is because we had our arms around each other and we were just laughing. I can't tell you what we were laughing about, but when I got this directive, I guess is the right word, from Queen Oprah, I was like, oh, what picture do I want to remind myself of my 12-year-old version of myself? And I didn't even think about it until you just said that. You were 12, Shannon.
Yeah.
Remind our listeners what your goal was at that time,
Oh, yeah. So the goal was to laugh every day, right? And
right?
at this time, yep, at this time, the parents at the time, my second stepmom and my dad were talking about divorce. This was like right before he got sick and everything. So it's
Mm,
just the energy in the house of divorce, and that's never good. The separation, where am I going to be, right? At that time, I was the oldest. I had two younger siblings. And so it's okay, they get to stay together. I'm going to be by myself again, right? He's going to be at work. I'm going to be by myself. And again, it reminds me of the 44 collateral consequences. You have all these things that are going to happen. Now we have the news. And so my goal then was to laugh once a day. And I would get home sometimes and I hadn't laughed. And so I would look up big foreheads or people falling. And I tried not to be hurtful with it, right? But it's hilarious and it would work. And I would
okay, why
laugh.
all of a sudden do I want to fix my hair and cover up my forehead when you say
No, I love you for who you are, you know?
thank you?
And yeah, we're all beautifully made. I genuinely believe that. But yeah, I would do that and it would help, you know. And now sometimes you can't stop me from laughing. But I do need to be intentional and have been working on being intentional about what are things that bring me joy? You know, what are things that bring me comfort? If I know that this week is gonna be specifically trying for whatever reason, it might be a workload, it
Right.
might be a difficult week as far as dates. Let me put those things on the list to do.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, what a cool time that we live in where we literally can have laughter at our fingertips. Like,
Yes.
I love streaming services where I can put in comedians and
Mm,
pick somebody that I want to listen to, right?
me too.
And that makes me laugh. Or
Yeah.
I have songs that make me laugh that I can
Oh.
dance to and it makes me laugh. Um,
Mm,
I have ones that just make me giggle,
yeah.
and my nibblings make me laugh. Those 3-year-olds are freaking hysterical. And
Mm,
so yeah, yes to more laughter. Yes to
yes.
another episode this season that was pretty powerful was I'm looking at all of them because there were so many, but the one we
Mm,
had just last week with Beth Baker, and
so
as a
good.
running coach, I was
Yes.
so inspired. I was like, "Ooh, let's do this!" Right?
Yes.
That running is for everybody, and that
Mhm.
you too can be a runner. That was a fun episode.
Yeah. And for me, I think about development, right? Before we started this podcast, I was thinking a lot about, okay, we develop the students, we're talking about learning and courses and things you need to do. And at 18, it just stops if you don't go to college, you know, like, no, like, why does development stop? I'm not going to go backwards and start shriveling into myself at 19 years old, you know? So how do we be intentional about our wellness? And a lot of times it can be daunting to do something for the first time, you know. So I love that she loves first time runners. I love that she takes them from the couch to 5K. And even that we were able to talk about ways to be intentional and hey, sometimes overtraining can be a bad thing. Sometimes slow is better. Sometimes more intentional is better, or walking. If you're not going to run, still walk for 30 minutes. I keep thinking about us mentioning that too.
Yeah, I it really made me want to be out there.
Yeah.
And I think when I get back, I'm definitely
Yeah.
going for it. I
Get it,
love
get it.
walking and running this time of year. It's really
Me
fun.
too.
We also talked this season financial wellness. We talked to Sarah Walton about are you a high functioning codependent and three money myths that keep you broke.
Such a
That
good
was an incredible
conversation.
episode. Do you
That was
remember?
fun.
Yeah.
So I remember her talking, I don't remember the 3 different points that she said off the top of my head, but talking a bit about being codependent and setting yourself up and being intentional is huge, you know. Her story of how she did not grow up wealthy and well-to-do, and now she has this business where she helps other women make sure that they're not codependent unnecessarily. I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gave our listeners a link to the Freedom Calculator about figuring out your financial wellness, like how to
Mm,
get free,
I
and the
finally need
money
to go look at
myths.
that.
And she was really talking about in that episode. She was talking about basically about letting go of the the barriers that we put on ourselves
Right.
about what we can or can't do around money and learning about it, especially as women. And she has the podcast. She's the voice behind Game On Girlfriend. And she was that was a fun episode. And she does courses about sales and things like that. That was I think I actually want to go back and re-listen to that one. It's like that was a good episode. You're on mute, my friend.
Okay, so I found the 3 steps, the 3 myths that are keeping you broke, right? So number 1, there's not enough. Number 2, more is better. And number 3, that's just the way it is. Right? And that's how it feels for me. I felt like it resonated a lot with all the 8 dimensions of wellness, right? Like I don't have what I need um and I need more than what I have right now to make you feel like you're not in the right position. And if that's the way it is and it can't be fixed, I feel like all of that is like this lie that keeps people hopeless and keeps them from I think it feeds into what I was talking about at the beginning, the fear that I had that people just listen to it and feel like it's cliche when no, we know the reality is that we have everything we need. There can be help, right? Yes, you might have to do work yourself, but you don't have to do it alone, and we can figure it out. And when you hold on to that, you hold on to that hope. When you hold on to the laughter and you drink your water and you get your rest, we have a good, a good foundation and a good pace to get this stuff set up successfully.
Yeah, and we often talk about the incremental steps, right?
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
about that. I think about that you don't have to do it all at once.
No.
That you can set this dream, this intention, this goal, whether it's really structured or whether
Yeah.
it's, ever changing, but you can make steps every week, every day, whatever your capacity is
Yeah.
to bring it forward.
Right.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing when I think about that and I think about financial wellness and I think about wherever you are and
Mhm.
however you're starting. If you want to make a change, then I think that's the first thing is figuring out what change you. I think actually, let me back up. With
Mhm.
any dimension of wellness,
Mhm.
I think if you look and you do an assessment, which our friend Shannon Ivy, who's been on the show and is one of our authors, has a really
Yes.
cool assessment on her website about wellness. And if you check in and you're like, okay, where do I need, where am I out of balance?
Right.
Because, I can't remember which teacher of mine, but years ago said, it's not that we make it to balance, it's that we're striving towards balance.
Mhm.
And that, so there's going to be times that we're out of balance in something. Like right now, my physical wellness is out of balance because I've got
Mhm.
this cold,
Mhm.
but I'm doing good in these other areas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I have to this week really focus on my physical wellness and what needs
Mhm.
to change and what do I need to do to boost that part of myself up. And
Exactly.
that we're not going to be perfect. We're
Mm.
not going to that's not what we're striving for, but we are going to be intentional
Yeah.
about where do I need more support
Right.
this week, this day, this moment,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking about writing this moment is just taking a pause and even taking a deep breath
Mhm.
to check in with yourself and see what you need, right?
Yeah. And when I think about that, I think about the prioritization, and when I think about goals, I definitely do a big one, right? You have to zoom out. And this is the part that used to be difficult. I didn't used to be able to think 10 years down the road. That's crazy. I know the next turn and I can't see past that in my head. So being able to zoom out and then being able to zoom in to okay, what do I need to do this week? What do I need to do this month to set up the quarter for what I want to do? Um, helps me do that. And then, like I said, looking at the context of everything, is it more physical right now because I know I have these things at the end of the week or next week, so we need to make sure the physical is there, or is it spiritual? And maybe spiritual will ha, help me with the strength that I feel like I need to have the motivation to do the things to X, Y, and Z. So I think it's going to change, and that not judging us for that, not judging ourselves for that, is an important part too.
Right? You were talking about a plan.
Yeah.
We have one of our authors that recommended a guest for us that we're hoping to get on the show that's 103.
Mm,
And she has a new best-selling book coming out, just even from the pre-orders. And then she has a 10-year plan at
yeah.
103. I thought,
That's
oh, Shannon Mitchell has to meet this woman.
I need to. I really wanna have this conversation. It's important. How do you think she got to 102? 10 years at a time, baby.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that and she's the mother of holistic medicine. So I think
That's
that
right.
is both those things.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's really powerful when we say what you want for yourself too, right? Like this person, and that was my thing recently is different people wanting me on their team, right? Papado wanted me on the team, Top Golf wanted me on the team, different people trying to steal me from those teams wanted me on the team. It's like, you know what? I want me on my own team. How about I build my team? And that's what we're doing. And you got to make sure that you have everything that you need before we can start helping other people with what they need. So I'm super excited that we get to help ladies remember that, hey, it's not selfish. You don't have to over apologize for it. If that's where you are based on the capacity that you have and the context of everything that you're dealing with, that makes perfect sense.
yeah. And thanks,
Yeah.
Buddy R, for listening and your comment. We
Yes.
appreciate you.
We see you
Um,
with the cool.
we see you. We love our
Yes.
live listeners and people that are listening after the episode's been posted. We're just grateful that you're here with us and having the conversation. And if
Yeah.
you have comments or questions, feel free to put them up there and we'll see if we can answer them. Today, we are doing the wrap up of season 12.
Mhm.
We are talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness in different places that what we can look at and be intentional with in spring wellness and what do we need at this season in our life, like
Yes.
what is it that is needed, and everybody's an individual, right?
Yeah.
So but we love connecting people to resources and different things and people that can help them depending
Right.
on what's going on. So
Absolutely.
this season that we just wrapped, we did the show for spiritual wellness. We often
Yes.
have amazing guests, and this one was just you and I.
Yes.
And we love talking about spiritual wellness and things that bring us joy and grace and all of that, right? With our
Yeah.
definition.
And I've been thinking about your question, what have I been doing for spiritual wellness, right? And I said I've been giving time to myself, but I really realized at the beginning of the day, right? I really realized that it's a list of different things throughout the day. It's the way that
Mhm.
I even recently I told you I got the index cards today, and that's for speaking on stage, right? But what I also wanted the index cards for was this little prayer box that I have. And it has like mirrors on every side, and every so often I'll put prayers in there, and come back and stuff is taken care of and the season is over or it got handled. And I like to go back and see what happened and then put something that has been on my mind that I can let go of and trust that it's going to be taken care of.
Oh, I love that. You
Yeah.
know, we were talking about the beginning of the show about community and the power of community. And I've belonged to a women's group for close to 25 years now. And
Mm,
one of my mentors and teachers, Glenda Taylor at oneandallwisdom.com, we have had a prayer web going for that long and longer because I was one of the babies when I joined the group. And just the power of that, right?
so
Whether,
important.
in our definition of spiritual wellness, it's not, we're not saying who to believe in or what to believe in, but
Yeah.
just knowing that there is a power and an energy beyond us, and what
Right.
do you do to tap into your spiritual wellness? And
Right.
I was thinking about that when you said that about the prayer box, because I immediately thought about that prayer web and how many people I'm connected to or I've prayed for or sent good energy to that I may not even know, right?
Yeah.
And just what grace and comfort it gives me in times of stress that I can call on that energy, you know?
Yeah. I was also thinking about the pity party that we had. So I didn't share too much about it on the podcast, but for me that was definitely a spiritual thing and holding space, right, for my best friend whose mom's house was sold. And so I got this rainbow piñata and a stick, and we put envelopes in there with every so if you guys don't know what we're talking about, actually let me back up. So one of our guests that's coming on, they
Yeah.
haven't come on yet, right?
No, they are
No.
coming on in 2 weeks
What's her
for
name?
social wellness. Gwyneth.
Gwyneth. So Gwyneth, shout out to Gwyneth early, right? She has these pity parties. And what I love is that the item that the pity party is centered around is something that's personal, right? I'll let Gwyneth tell her story about what she put together and how that helped her. For my best friend and I, we do a great job at staying positive, right? We're amazing at it. And there's been a lot of stuff going on the past few years. So for me to get this rainbow, it was like, okay, there's still rainbows and unicorns, right? But not all the time. So we took envelopes and wrote the different things that may have been frustrating, that we're upset about, or that could have gone another way, a way that we would have hoped maybe would have been smoother. We put it in the pinata and then beat it up in the backyard, right? Because everything's not always a rainbow and and unicorns. So that was a fun pity party, and I think it did some good.
I love that you already did that and that
Yeah,
guest hasn't even been on. Gwyneth
wisdom
is
in
going to
action.
love that story. She
Yes.
is going to love that story that you're like,
Yeah.
I'm on it. Let's
Oh,
do
on
it.
it. Let's do this because, I do believe that everything is taken care of. I do believe that there's a specific place and person that I go to. I don't think that it's my role to tell the next person, like we said, hey, you have to believe in this
Mm-hmm.
because we're talking about spiritual wellness. But what
Mm-hmm.
we know is that everything's not always perfect. We know that it benefits us to be positive and to continue forward in the things we have control over. But it felt really good to say, no, this one is not okay, and then go let it go outside.
Right. Oh, I love that, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say thank you. Thank you for an awesome season. Thank
Yes.
you for 110 episodes.
Woo, woo.
And
Yes.
like, what do we have going on that we want to tell listeners about
Mm,
at Women Connected in Wisdom or at
yes,
Shayla Glow? What do they need to
yes.
know as we wrap
There's
this
so much.
season?
There is so much. So let's start with Shaylo Glow, and then we can go to Women Connected in Wisdom. So, guys, we do have the birthday coming up. If you listen to the podcast, you know my big first time goal is 5 years because most businesses fail within the first 5 years, right? So in June, we're celebrating 3 years. We were incorporated in 2020, so we have a glow day coming up. We're putting together the details. We will send it out. But if you're interested in more information, go ahead and go to shaloglow.com and join the Glow Club. Right now, we're talking about underarm care, how to exfoliate and stay on that hair removal regimen and take care of yourself with our products. Again, we talk about glowing from head to toe. So if you're on that email list, you'll get those details and the details of the upcoming events that we have. And at Women Connected in Wisdom, right now, we are finishing up the audiobook for volume one. So we have a lot of different people asking. We know you guys like to read. We know you like to read on your iPad, on your Kindle, and you've had that, but you want to listen. All right, so we've got it on the way. So if you do not have your copy already, go ahead and um, get set up to get it when we're going to release our audiobook. Get plugged into your audiobook listener and we'll give you those details. And the last thing I'll say, and actually it's like a two-part thing we have for Women Connected in Wisdom. We are doing volume two right now. So we're doing volume two. If you know somebody whose story and resource is amazing and has helped you and it can help our listeners and network around the world, send them our way to Women Connected in Wisdom podcast at gmail.com. And we'll talk to them to see if their story is something that fits to be lifted up. And if you're interested in staying connected, go to womenconnectedinwisdom.com and listen to our podcast. Get connected to the community. As we do volume two, we're having classes for how to write an amazing bio, 250 words or less, how to be an author. And we have a lot of different questions about the things that we do. And so we're building those resources to help you with that. And if you want to get plugged in, go ahead and sign up and we'll send you the information for all of that.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot
Um,
going on. It's
so
super
much.
fun, y'all. So,
Yes.
wisdom in action for this week, my friend.
Oh, what
What are
am
we doing?
I doing? I am, let's see. Let me look at the planner. That's a great
Because
question.
it's all 8 dimensions.
It is.
So, I am going to do hashtag
Mhm.
self care to sustain community care.
I like it.
It's part of my brand, but it's
Yeah.
also reality. Like, I have to take care of myself in order to sustain and thrive in community care. And so that's going to be my wisdom in action this week.
Yes. I think I think that mine is going to be one that I talked about earlier this season. I'm going to reuse it, and it's cash flow and communication. And that is communication to you guys as my business partners, as my partners, cash flow because we're still working on taxes and intentional about what we're doing this quarter is the beginning of the quarter and that ties into my systems. And so communicating all of that, keeping that organized is what I'm focusing on this week. So that'll be mine.
Ooh, I love it.
Yes.
Well, as always, so grateful for
Yes.
this conversation and this
Absolutely.
community. And I
Me
hope
too.
that everybody joins us next week. We
Yes.
are kicking off season 13,
Woo woo.
and we are going to be kicking it off with physical wellness and Glenda Lane talking
Yes.
about freedom to flourish,
Mm.
saying bye bye to overwhelm and depletion. That's going to be a
Goodbye.
good show.
Yes.
Goodbye. See
Goodbye.
you.
Right? Yes, yes, and on the see you, right? Join us next week live at 5 like Christine said. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Peace.